My name is Sean Walchef, and I wanted to share my 100-year heritage story with you today. It is July 10th, 2019, and today is a very special day for our family. Today marks the year that my grandfather would have turned 100 years old. So Lubin Walchef was born on July 10th, 1919, in a very small village on the other side of the world in Bulgaria, a very rural village, and he was born to be a farmer. His greatest gift was that his grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, Valko, taught him a love of curiosity, a love of reading, and that allowed him to develop this passion for education and passion for continuing to better himself and to continue to read. The village that he was born in was called Porden, and in that village there was a man by the name of Dr. Edward Haskell, who came and founded an American agriculture college. He was very fortunate, my grandfather, that this man came into their village and essentially helped the kids to understand all the things that go on with agriculture. My grandfather wasn't destined to be a farmer. He was destined to live a life of curiosity that led him to apply to medical school. He read every single book in his village in Porden, and he got to a point where he needed to transfer to a bigger city, a city of Pleven, in order to finish his high school. When he went there, it was not an easy task, but he was able to find a place to live, and he lived with a boy that he was tutoring, and his father and his family, and his father was a medical doctor. That gave my grandfather access to more books. He started reading medical books and really developed this love of wanting to become a medical doctor. Why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this because my grandfather raised me. Lubin Walchef, he was my father. I am 37 years old today, and I'm so lucky that I had him in my life, but not only had him in my life, had him care enough to want to share his story with me and write a book. Him and I self-published this book called The Harvest, How a Bulgarian Farm Boy Grew Wealthy in La Jolla, California. And it's the greatest accomplishment that I've ever had in my life. I'm so fortunate that I'll be able to read this to my son, Cali, who's 2 years old. He just turned 2. My daughter Mila, who's 1 month old. My wife Rosica, she is Bulgarian as well. But helping my grandfather write this book was one of the greatest things that I've ever done, and something that I highly recommend anyone that cares about their heritage, about where their family came from, to really dig deeper into the questions that you hear around the dinner table. It almost takes acting like a journalist, maybe acting like an attorney, deposing, asking questions, prodding questions, because we all remember stories in a certain narrative, and once you change the question, you get different answers, and some of those answers might be the best things that you'll be able to pass off to your children and to your grandchildren. And today being July 10th, we would be celebrating my grandfather's 100th birthday. And I never met my father. I've only seen 2 pictures of him. When my son was born, I went on the internet with my wife Rosica to try to find him, and I was able to locate him. And his wife responded to me that they just really didn't. They lived a private life, and they didn't want to have any connection with me, which was relieving, frustrating, but also helps me better understand who I am. Helps me have answers when my son asks who his grandfather is. I know who my father is. It was Lubin Walchef. Even though he was my grandfather, he raised me, and I was born into privilege, able to live a life in La Jolla, California. He paid for my education to go to Bishop's, which is an incredible school, and I made amazing friends there. But I just highly encourage people to take the time to share their 100-year heritage story. It doesn't have to be a birthday. It can be any day significant in your family's life, but it takes a little bit of extra work to find out, what are the real milestones that you can celebrate, because having this book is something that is the greatest thing that I've ever achieved. I've also gotten it translated into Bulgarian, so all my wife, her family, there's copies in the village that my grandfather was born in Portum, and it's just something that I'll treasure for always. So, 100-year heritage story. Hopefully you take me up on the offer. I want to wish my grandfather a happy birthday. I love you, Grandpa. I'm going to continue to read this to my son, Colleen, and my daughter, and keep sharing stories.